How do we avoid getting bitter when life doesn't meet our expectations? This is Dan from sermonsnack.com, bite-sized truths in 5 minutes or less. We all know that life isn't perfect. There are these gaps between how we experience life the way that it is and how we wish it was, or how we even think it should be. In the book of Ruth, it tells a story of Naomi, and it explains that Naomi's husband dies, leaving her with only her 2 sons who marry off, but then in 10 years, they also die. And so here Naomi's gone to 3 funerals and has experienced this incredible, deep, deep grief for the people that she's loved that have died. And as she goes back to Bethlehem with Ruth and people are excited to see her, they say, "Oh, good, Naomi's here." And she's like, "Stop. Don't call me Naomi," which means pleasant. "Call me Mara," which means bitter. I mean, can you imagine having so much bitterness in your heart that you actually want to change your name to it? You actually want to make it something that when you introduce yourself to people, you would shake their hand and say, "Hi, I'm bitter." But we've all had situations like Naomi where life doesn't meet our expectations. Maybe on a much smaller level. Maybe the server doesn't get your order right at the restaurant, even though you specifically mentioned exactly how to make it. Or there's construction on the way to work and now you're late for an important meeting. Or you lose your job. Or she says, "Hey, we're breaking up." Or the doctor says, "Hey, I've got bad news." On whatever scale it is, we all face the inevitability of life not meeting up to our expectations. We all face the possibility of dealing with loss. And in those moments, nothing feels better than complaining about it. Being able to tell someone or tell the world that you have been done wrong, and really to affirm the fact that you deserve better. And that's what makes complaining so addicting, is it's a constant reminder to yourself and to the people around you that you're a valuable person and that you deserve more than what you're getting right now. But the danger, of course, is that complaining is just the early symptoms of full-out bitterness. So there has to be a solution for dealing with loss and grief in a way that's not about becoming bitter, but it's also not just about raw acceptance where we just give in out of sort of martyrdom or even self-pity, saying life just sucks and there's nothing I can do about it. I think there's a better way. What if we thought about it through the paradigm of forgiveness? In the same way that we would forgive a person, what if we learned to forgive the situation? There's a great quote by Timothy Keller that talks about forgiveness. And it's interesting to think about it and read this quote in the context of what it would be like to forgive a situation. And he says this: "There is another option, however. You can forgive. Forgiveness means refusing to make them pay for what they did. However, to refrain from lashing out at someone when you want to do so with all your being is agony. It is a form of suffering. You not only suffer the original loss of happiness, reputation, and opportunity, but now you forgo the consolation of inflicting the same on them. Or in our case, you forgo the ability to complain and be bitter about how life has dealt you wrong." He continues, he says, "You are absorbing the debt, taking the cost of it completely on yourself, instead of taking it out on the other person. It hurts terribly. Many people would say it feels like a kind of death. Yes, but it is a death that leads to resurrection instead of the lifelong living death of bitterness and cynicism." What I like about this quote is that it highlights that forgiveness is expensive, that it costs us something, that there's a sense of us needing to deal with the emotional grief and loss and absorb that debt as we forgive. But this act of forgiveness is a far better choice than changing our name to bitterness. So may you find the strength in those situations where life is less than perfect, where things don't meet up to your expectations, to not become bitter, but to forgive the situation. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget you can hear more episodes by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, or going online to sermonsnack.com.